Do I sound more relaxed, more tan, more affable? It's been wild. 2 weeks ago, I was on the couch. Alex's mom calls me up. Adam, I want you to come to Trinidad and Tobago with me. I was like, well, which one is it? Because I'm not allowed back on Tobago. Listen, thank you, Jay Brat, for joining the podcast last week. You did a great job. I'm starting to get upset that every time you join, it's when I'm not here, but you ate a lot of beans and that made up for it. But here's the thing, Jay Brat, as good as you are, there is something I have you don't. Intimacy. I have intimacy with Alex, or more or less Alex's family, Alex's mom, that you just don't have. Welcome to Play PSVR 2, the podcast. Alex, are you ready to get intimate with episode 114?
It's episode 115, Adam. I don't know if you're trying to jump the numbers.
Bob Saget. See, I'm trying to get up all in Jay Brat's grill because you guys did episode 114 already. Thank you. Thank you, Alex. That's our intimacy. We're one, and I appreciate you.
You call me the one-upper. I think I literally just one-upped you right there with the 114 to 115. But yes, I'm ready to get intimate. I'm ready to get up inside you. I'm ready to go all up in and go on this episode with you tonight, Adam. What are we doing tonight? What are we talking about?
Oh, we're going to get intimate with Song in the Smoke Rekindled. We're going to get intimate with the Vader One gun stock. We're going to get intimate with Seeker, My Shadow. Man, we got news. We've got fun discussions. We've got Easter. It's going to be good.
All right, Adam, let's hit it. We got a lot to cover. Hit me up with your game of juice.
That's right. I've got Stalinade.
Communist orange juice? Is that
yes.
what it is?
It's not orange juice. It's not orange juice.
Does it taste like a mustache?
It's Chernobyl brewed. It's the secret KGB flavor.
It's like they just put a bunch of Russian buzzwords in there.
Yes, absolutely. It's not bad. Traitorous? I don't know. Is it cream soda? Orange cream soda?
I don't know why that would be aid, but okay. Anyways, Adam, it tastes okay. I got
Is it orange lemonade? Maybe it's orange lemonade.
Okay.
Anyhow, move on.
It tastes like Stalin's kisses. Adam, I tried to go to the store to get an energy drink or something for the show. I couldn't. There was a wreck outside my neighborhood. Traffic blocked off. Turned around, looked in the back of my fridge. I had Buy Boost pineapple drink. But turns out it is an energy drink. It's got plant-based caffeine. So as much caffeine as a cup of coffee, and it's going to say bye-bye going to sleep. Bye-bye sleepy times. This is Buy Boost pineapple. It's going to make things taste good.
And you know what? What's next is bye-bye 40 minutes to 1 hour of one of our listeners' lives, because Jay Brat is giving us a code to give away before your eyes, and someone's going to win it, and you're going to waste an hour of your life. Horrible takes last week. Get prepared to be just absolutely disappointed. The game, it's a cold gimmick. It's not good. Could you have chosen, if I say just the main character, would that be a spoiler, or should I just not say anything?
You just shut your mouth, Adam. You're disrespecting the number 4 greatest Play PSVR, PSVR 2 game of all time.
I was listening to the episode, and I was going to go off the rails if it went above Runner. I was going to lose it.
You know what you were saved by? You were saved by the fact that Jay Brat is such a homer for Demio. That's the only reason it didn't go above Runner. The only reason. You are lucky Demio exists and that we reviewed it. But Adam, we have the list of the listeners who sent in the emails. I want to say thank you so much for sending in the emails and entering the competition. We love hearing from you guys. It just lets us know that this isn't falling on deaf ears. This is falling on beautiful, wonderful, handsome, and sexy ears. But I'm going to go ahead and spin the wheel right now. And we have numbers assigned to each listener, so it's a totally random. And right now, the winner is going to be... It's going to play music for me. It's going to be our boy Bruce. Bruce, you know who you are.
Way to go, Bruce. Way to go, Bruce. You're going to lose an hour of your time. An hour of your life is never going to get back.
Bruce.
I hope you like totally unrelatable plots. Boom. I think I made a word up. Unrelatable, I think is what I said. Regardless, congrats, Bruce. We will contact you and give you that code. And another piece of fan mail I loved, if you remember 2 weeks ago, I had Martian poop, and it was Marion berry flavored soda, which I didn't know what that was. William sent us an email. I don't know. This is such random information, but he has backstory to the Marion berry. So Marion was a mayor of Washington, D.C., and during that time, it
it became
hilarious.
the murder capital of the United States.
So they changed the name of the NBA to the Washington Bullets to the Washington Wizards during his reign right there. He was videotaped smoking crack with a prostitute. He had to leave office, but he was then reelected like a boss.
Oh, Marion Barry, you left. You came back. We were so proud. Congratulations, Marion Barry.
Woo, you're back. You're back. I don't know if he's currently in office, but that is such a random story. I don't know where William heard of that, but that's awesome. I had no clue. Alex, these gamer juices matter.
Yeah, we thought it was just an ancillary thing. I think people listen to the show for the gamer juice. It turns out this is a nutrition podcast. That's what we're doing here.
It's what when we look at the stats for each podcast, the viewership's off the roof for the first 5 minutes, and then a steep downward turn. Just
steep, yeah. It drops right off the cliff, and it's just Adam and I talking to each other for the next hour and a half.
But it's okay because we're so intimate because of it that it's all right.
Speaking of intimacy, Adam, we had an email come in suggesting we do a live show. So I just want to put it out there. Should we do a live show? Adam and I have no idea how this crap works. If you guys think you want to talk to us while we record a podcast, we're happy to let you join. We're happy to let you see how the sausage gets made and played with. Send us an email if you're interested. Contact@playpsvr.com, because we don't want to do this if it's not something people are going to join. But I'll do one by myself. I don't even need Adam. But send us an email. But with that, Adam, what do you think? Let's get into some reviews.
The thing is, if we have a live show, it will be more intimate. That's today's buzzword, intimacy, because you're going to see what happens between the segments. We burn good content in between segments and before the show that, we just can't put online. It's too hot to handle, but you would get to see it live.
Remember that time you had a cookout for 4th of July and we were all going swimming and your mom had these bottoms that were a bit too large and we all saw between her segments?
I was too busy staring at your mom, so I didn't see him. Okay, you're going to talk about Song in the Smoke. Let's get cooking.
Let's get cooking. Gaming is in session. Gaming court today. We have The Defendant, Song in the Smoke, Rekindled edition, developed by 17-Bit Studios, who joined us on the podcast not long ago. The game comes in at a price of $29.99, and it is facing the charges. 1 count of wishing you were here, 1 count of finding out the hard way, and 1 count of putting it all together. So, for the first charge, we take the defendant takes a stand. Wishing you were here. So, Song in the Smoke, it's a game about your wits against the wilderness. You're all alone, braving the elements, and not only surviving the wilderness, but you're taming it. It's got really large maps, it's full of interesting locations and hidden paths and ample surprises, and your exploration is often rewarded, but also just as often, it's a costly endeavor. All on your own, you have to make sure that you are able to create the things that you need in this wilderness, survive the nighttime encounters. You have to make sure you build a campfire. You have to make sure that there's no predators around. You have to make sure you're ready to venture away from a base camp. And all these little elements of the survival game really make the incentive structure tick in the game for me. And it places the goal of survival past the post of just surviving, which a lot of these survival games have, and it puts it right in the camp of survive today so you can succeed tomorrow. So despite all the loneliness as I'm going through these large environments, I did wish that at sometimes when I was in danger that I had some kind of help, but I felt accomplished in the end when I used my own wits to, build up a day's worth of supplies, find elements, scrap them together, repair my armor, create new tonics, and then completely discover gameplay mechanics and elements as I was readying myself that night to prepare for war the next day. The requirements to even survive the night are just heavy enough to keep me concerned but not overwhelmed. And so as a whole, the whole survival element of Song in the Smoke ends up being great, and it's an enjoyable feat. something I typically don't like. And so for the account of Wishing You Were Here, I find Song in the Smoke guilty.
So I'm curious, Alex. Am I think there's a fine line with survival games where you can be immersed and you can be into the story and into the survival element, or it could be a collection of tasks that are very kind of painful and monotonous that you must do just to progress in the game, but it's not an enjoying collection of things you must do: building fires, making your own weapons, upgrading weapons, looking for berries and other resources. Where do you think Song in the Smoke sits in that line? Do you think they handle that well?
I'll get to this a bit in the second segment, but I just say they do it well. Normally, I hate this stuff. Normally, I used to love to play Fallout. I'd play Fallout on survival mode, and I'd get mad at trying to find food and ammunition and things wearing out. I couldn't play Breath of the Wild because I hated those mechanics. But in this game, somehow they have just the right amount of upkeep and maintenance required of you, of things that you have to watch out, like your body temperature and how much food you have, how much sleep you have. Are you poisoned? Are you bleeding? All these things get handled very well in a way that isn't frustrating for me. And if it's too easy, you can always turn up the difficulty to really bring those elements to the forefront. But with that, I'll go ahead into our second charge. Song in the Smoke is facing the second charge of finding out the hard way. So, for better or worse, Song in the Smoke is a real game with a pretty original design, but it's made for the ground up in VR. So while there are survival games out there in the flat space, this is one of the first really true survival games that I enjoyed that I feel like got it right. Song in the Smoke Rekindled Edition has demands of you. However, in meeting those demands, you sometimes run into troubles, and sometimes the troubles are intentional. It's supposed to be difficult at times, but sometimes it's frustrating in the sense that you encounter gameplay elements in inorganic ways. There were times when I knew there was something I should be doing with something like a stick. I could grab it with both hands, but I didn't know until I saw on YouTube that I'm supposed to break those apart to create smaller sticks that I can use to more readily build a campfire or build things around my campfire. The tutorials are meant to be emergent, and I applaud them for that. I hate having screens pop up in front of me, and I just sit and watch them, and I have things laid out for me. I love interactive tutorials that kind of guide me in the right direction. But because they're emergent, because they're so subdued, it's easy to miss these important elements. And there were times when I would take a different route along a path, and I would find this tutorial maybe an hour after I actually needed it, or after I had found it on YouTube for some reason. All that said, I do think because of this issue, when you first start the game, you should start the game on the easiest difficulty level, because that's one that allows you to, if you don't grasp all of the gameplay elements, you're not going to be severely punished for it, right? You're not going to suddenly die because you overheated and didn't realize it. One other thing that I have to mention is that first time playing the game, I got about 2 hours into it and I forgot to save at a campfire. I was killed by a newly introduced gameplay element. Won't spoil it too much, but sometimes nighttime can be dangerous, I'll just say. And I had to dial it an hour, 2 hours back in game progress because I forgot to save. I understand not wanting to have autosave. It adds tension to it, but maybe at least autosave at the start of a new level would be something worth implementing. And then as you go throughout that level, you have to intentionally save at campfires. Those are the frustrating elements. Those are things that I think could be fine-tuned a little bit, but they still do most of it right. So it's hard to complain too much, but certainly auto-saving when you start a level would make a huge difference here. So for all the frustrations I found, despite that, I think the balance is pretty good. So on the case of finding out the hard way, I find Song in the Smoke guilty.
So I, too, played this game. I started in medium difficulty, though, and I will admit it was a rough go because I still don't know what killed me. And now that you started with easy, do you feel that you've learned everything? So when you move to medium, you now know the elements. You just maybe need to be a bit sharper. Like, do you think there's still going to be a learning curve moving up a difficulty?
There will be a learning curve in the sense of learning how to manage things, but there won't be a learning curve in learning how to mitigate things. In the sense that if I'm too cold, I know how to make myself warm. If I'm too hot, I know how to cool myself off. Because I've played with those. There's a bit more grace in the easy mode, so I could learn these mechanics. So certainly, you know, things like if you're bleeding, things like if you're poisoned, things like if it's nighttime and you don't have campfire, you don't have fire nearby to help you out. These things, you learn how to manage it in the easy mode. You're not severely punished by it. That way you can go through the harder difficulty and really ramp up that tension, but you feel capable of handling it, which, you know, certainly takes a game to the next level in terms of fun.
Yeah, I got one more question, quick one. When, for the listeners, for the people who haven't played it, who are currently playing it, and they hit a roadblock, did you find any resources, or what did you do to try to figure out what is this piece of the puzzle they're wanting me to overcome, or how to overcome the obstacle?
So one thing I'll note is that each stage before you go into what's, you know, officially really the boss fight, there is like a hallucination that you have where an old lady shows you how to do something. And it seems initially like it's not making too much sense. Sometimes it's pretty on the nose, like put a mushroom on an arrow and feed it to a boar. But sometimes it's things like, oh, she's holding a stick with one hand, then she holds it with two hands. And if you didn't know, that's how you can block with your club. If you didn't know that, you wouldn't know what she's showing you, and it wouldn't make much sense. So I picked up a lot of things by actually the Song and the Smoke website. The developers on their website, they have some tutorials you can watch that are pretty quick of like, you know, some hot tips you might want to learn getting into Song and the Smoke to make it better. They show you how to build a campfire, how to make a really good campfire, what it means around the campfire. Because there's certain things, like you need a bunch of small sticks before you can have a campfire big enough to use big sticks. And then you need a bunch of big sticks to make one big enough to use even the large sticks. Those are things that I didn't quite understand until I saw some videos. So certainly go to their website, watch some of their quick tip videos. They explain things like the durability system, which, you know, a little bit more care into how this stuff is introduced in the game organically would be nice. I'd never felt too hampered by it, though, but that's because I was playing on easy mode.
Cool.
All right. And for the final charge of putting it all together, when Song and the Smoke is at its worst, it feels basic and functional. And that's a backhanded compliment. It's not necessarily a bad thing that the game works when it's at its worst. But at its worst, you're doing things in a VR game. You're playing a game in VR, doing standard VR stuff, you know, grabbing stuff, mixing stuff. But often, very often, it's better than that. The exploration and the experimentation don't feel forced, but they feel natural, which is very rare in a game. I never felt like I was combining stuff because I had to figure out what was going on. I did it because I wanted to, and it felt natural to throw elements into the mortar and pestle, grind them up, and see what it does. It felt natural to find new food, eat it, experiment with cooking it, and eating that food. It felt natural to build new things around my campfire and see what it's like to make a new cloak or a new quiver, things like that. It's very difficult to do. A lot of these games become resource management. This game isn't quite resource management, but it still feels like survival, so I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm not anxious going through the game, grabbing these elements, putting stuff together, testing out new gameplay things, and the variable pace of the game also allows me to experiment on my own time. The thing that I really enjoyed with Song and the Smoke was that there were days when I would just make a trip, and the sun comes up, I'm going to go out, I'm going to hunt a few animals, I'm going to skin their hides, so I have that equipment, I'm going to go find sticks, so I have enough to build a campfire, and then I'm going to go gather rocks, so I'm ready to build another campfire somewhere else. So everything that you're doing when you're skinning an animal, when you're hunting, you're spending time, and time becomes an important management because you want to make sure you're doing things during the day so you don't get caught in danger at night. But if you do find yourself out in the middle of the night and you have a torch, you run into some really interesting elements, again, that happen organically, and they feel rewarding when you find it, but they're also kind of thrilling and spooky when you encounter them as well. All these things kind of come together where it's almost like you're never in a part of the game doing something you're not supposed to be doing. You're always being rewarded for that exploration, and the environments are just varied enough to where they feel familiar, they feel comfortable, but you're still seeing something new. You get just lost enough sometimes to where it's kind of scary, but you do have a map to get you back to where you want to go. And although these environments aren't huge, they can be daunting at just the right level. So the whole thing is they put it all together and they balance it so well to where everything's hitting all the notes just the right way that nothing becomes really, you know, off-putting, game-ending, game-breaking, and it all just works together and it's cohesive. And the best element of this was when I was finally feeling like I was overcoming the combat, mastering the combat, becoming great at the combat to where the game was too easy. I defeat one of the bosses, and I used all my equipment on the boss, and then I go to exit the level, and bam, I'm hit with a cougar and a lion and a screecher all at the same time, and they're flanking me, and I'm freaking out because I have no more arrows, and I have a club, and the club breaks on the first hit, and suddenly I'm clambering up rocks as fast as I can to get to a safe spot so I can figure out what the heck I'm going to do to get past all these animals. And it was just such a thrilling experience, and I really felt like I was in the wilderness and the animals were against me, and I love it when a game takes things to the next level like that. So, for the charge of putting it all together, certainly I find Song in the Smoke guilty.
So, do you think you are now better prepared to survive in real life, like if you go camping?
Probably not. I mean, I might be better at building a fire, potentially. Like that might be something I'm better at, because I think, oh, a lot of small sticks make a big stick. But they had flint rocks that you can crack, which I'm not going to be able to start a fire if I don't have flint rocks or matches. No, I don't feel better prepared to survive in the wild, because I don't know if those berries are poisonous or not. But maybe I'll be better at shooting an arrow at a cougar.
Look for those Marion berries. All right, let's go to the final verdict.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. Final verdict: Gaming Court finds Song in the Smoke on the final charge of being a game worthy of your time. Guilty. That's right. This game is good, baby. This game is good. Here's the thing. Also, it's a long game. You have a lot of time ahead of you. It's rare that we had these games that are ground up VR, and you're going to be spending 10, 15 hours on your first playthrough, and you are incentivized to go through again as you turn up the heat in the game. I'm impressed with what they did here. We heard a lot of great things about the game coming into it. The video footage really doesn't do it justice. When you're playing the game, those environments really come to life. And I don't know how it would have looked on the PSVR or Quest, but I can't imagine it, looking quite as breathtaking as it does on the PSVR 2. It's certainly a very, very good game and a testament to the headset, and kudos to those guys.
Well, the last thing to do is, where does it go on the list of all-time PSVR 2 games?
I see Adam has deleted before your eyes from the list.
No, I actually have not.
Why is it disappearing here for me? Anyways, looking at the list, it's a game I certainly want to I certainly want to play over Demeo. It's a game that has more legs than Runner, in my opinion. And I think it took me to places emotionally, in terms of different emotions, but emotionally similar to what Before Your Eyes did. So I think it's certainly above Before Your Eyes. I don't have much experience with Runner, but I've played Runner, and I certainly would recommend it over Runner. So I think, yeah, this is going to be our number 3 game. It's so good. It's just doing everything right.
So I'm just curious, what are the reasons Gran Turismo is better? Is it just a AAA title, the graphics, the immersion?
Gran Turismo has longer legs. I could play Gran Turismo for the rest of my life, probably. Gran Turismo 7. Like, I could just probably keep playing that, never stop, and never get bored of it, which is probably the big difference here, right? Song in the Smoke, after you've played it on the hardest difficulty, you're probably not going to come back and play it. You put a good 15 to 30 hours in Song in the Smoke, you've been there, done that, and you're done with it. Gran Turismo just has that. No fault of 17-bit. Gran Turismo has millions of dollars behind it, millions and millions and millions of dollars, a huge franchise, but it pulls it all off. So it's a bit unfair, but I can't argue.
No, I think that's fair.
Regard.
I cannot wait for the day that you finish all these freaking games you have to review so you can play Resident Evil 8. Like, I want to play it again, but there's just too much stuff. I feel like I gotta continue, and I gotta move on. So while you talked about Song in the Smoke, I want to talk about the Kobra VR Vader One gun stock, because I got a chance to use this. I reviewed it. It's on the website. It's on our YouTube. You can see maybe a more fleshed out review and me actually using it there. But I gotta admit, Alex, this scratched me right where I itched, because all of us miss the aim controller. We all love the aim controller, and this certainly is designed differently than the aim controller, but essentially it does the same thing. So first of all, the two things I loved most about it is that, one, it actually made me better at all the games involving guns, Pavlov, Cowboy Cactus. And 2, it made it more fun, not just because I was better and I was actually able to use a sniper and on gun game, not be on the sniper for 15 rounds. But I, like in the video, I play like bad cop, like I love now putting my back up against the wall in VR and also real life. And then I turn around real time, hold the gun, kill someone when I hear them on the other side of the wall because of the 3D audio, because now the gun, I have the stability and the ability to move and perform some of those moves. It's really fun. It sounds stupid. Doesn't sound like it would really add a lot, but I'm telling you, it is a friggin' blast. I was loving it. And that allowed me to do so. I just couldn't do that with 2 controllers. And sniping, I don't have steady enough hands to hold and snipe quickly. Now all I do is put it up to my head if it's not already there, and boom, I'm good to go. I have that stability. That's really done well. So one thing I do like about this is that it is a handmade product. You can tell an individual has put the screws in themselves. It uses magnets to, one, make the stock of the gun, kind of connect the butt with the main portion of the stock here. And you can also fold that, like if you want to imitate an SMG or something like that, but also takes your non-dominant hand and connects that controller to the stock using a magnet. So if you need that hand for a pistol, you just take it off. And because it's a magnet, very easy to take on and off, which again is huge when you're playing gun game or any game where you're constantly having to switch back and forth. So that worked exceedingly well. I like the idea that you're supporting someone, I don't want to say local, but someone like a dude who has the ingenuity and the engineering skills to have developed this, to put this together by hand. I think that's pretty cool. Some people may not care, but I like that quite a bit. As I mentioned, played a couple games with it. Both games, I was a lot better, especially Cactus Cowboy or Cowboy Cactus. I was horrible with just the controllers. Now I have a fighting chance. And then again, Pavlov was a blast. I haven't used it with After the Fall, but I mean, every game it's going to be compatible with. It's going to help tremendously use rifles. And then again, because it's light and it's a minimalistic design, like in Pavlov, when I had to use it with dual wielding, I guess it wasn't dual wielding pistols, but a pistol, it's light enough that I could move around unencumbered and I could easily shoot. No problem. Had no issues reloading, no issues moving. And the couple things, it's not all perfect. One, it's a bit confusing to figure out how to put the controllers in the stock, believe it or not. It doesn't come with instructions. So I had to stare at the picture forever and tried multiple things to try to figure it out. Eventually I got it.
I think they said they're going to be adding instructions to future ones. So if people go out and buy it now, they're going to have a QR code.
That's perfect.
To like an instruction video, yeah.
Yes, it definitely it needs it. And then the butt of the gun is 3D printed, which is when you 3D print something, it's like plastic, so it's hard and it doesn't make marks. It's not horribly uncomfortable, but it doesn't feel great being up against your chest or when you're moving it around. I remember like the aim controller. It was very comfortable. I know it didn't have a butt like that in the gun, but it was far more comfortable. It would have been really nice if they could have made this out of rubber or have some type of covering that could go over it, just so you have a little resistance there, something between you and the hard plastic other than just a thin shirt, or I like to play VR shirtless, heck. And then finally, we got to talk about the price. So the price is $84, which again, this is a handmade product. But I also admit, like, I see where the $84 comes from because it's handmade. It went through the engineering and he had to figure out how to do these things. But then I understand, $84 is a lot. You just spent $500 on this VR headset, then you had your PS5, that's another 500. Like at some point you don't have endless money to keep buying stuff. The games now are, $40 to $70. So $84 I don't sneeze at, but I would say if you play gun games regularly, this you need a gun stock because it really makes the experience so much better. And this is a very, very solid choice. One of the only choices you have right now, mind you. So it would be a very worthy investment to use this, to purchase this, and you're going to be able to use it until, I mean, it's sturdy. You're not, unless you do something really stupid, you're not going to break it. So you're going to use it for a long, long time. A very smart investment I encourage you to do. But if you don't, if you were like us in the last, with playing Firewall, like right now, we have Pavlov. We're going to have Firewall Ultra. We'll have Sierra Crossfire. If you don't like those and you only play them like maybe once a month with friends or something, maybe this isn't necessary. You may not want or need it. Maybe spend that money on games or prescription lenses for the VR or some other accessories. That's where I lie. If you like gun games or you play them, you need to buy a gun stock. It's going to change your entire play and it's going to be real fun. So, Alex, I want you to get one of these because I want you to have the moves, man. I mean, you saw me. I really, it's a freaking blast. I love it.
I mean, so here's the thing. I mean, you bring up the aim controller, and we all love the aim controller. Granted, we love the aim controller because it gave us analog sticks. That was the big thing. But the thing about the aim controller is it's an investment, and you don't know how well it's going to be utilized in the future, right? Games have to be built around it. Whereas this is an accessory that's future proof in the sense where if there's a game that has rifles or two-handed weapons, you're ready to go. So you played it with Pavlov and Cactus Cowboy. I think you're going to be playing it with After the Fall at some point. Firewall, Crossfire, Sierra, whatever it is. Those games are going to come out. It's going to work for those as well. And I do have to commend them. I was trying to think of ways that you would handle, you have to take the gun off the rifle to reload and stuff. And how are you going to do that with a gun stock? They figured it out. They made it work, even with the weird design of the PSVR 2 Sense controllers. Without interrupting the tracking. Were there any tracking issues as you were playing?
Nope, not a single. Some people complained they couldn't get to all the buttons when you were holstered in. I never had that issue either. So I had no problems on either one of those subjects.
Yeah, so I think that's really clever, and that's one thing that probably puts it above the aim controller in that sense is just like, yeah, you'll be able to use it for all the games. I haven't played with it. I could totally see myself wanting to use it every time. And the fact that you can still freehand things means that maybe you can play games that aren't gun games, but still not have to worry about dismantling the entire system to get enjoyment out of it. So if you're playing like a Tentacular or you're playing Cosmonius High, just some of these games where you're moving your hands around and stuff, it's not going to get in the way. And then if you want to quickly switch over, you just connect the magnets together and you're ready to go with a rifle game. So kudos is Kobra VR, the people who make it. Kobra
Correct.
VR. Okay,
Yeah.
And it's the Vader One gun stock. I mean,
Yeah.
I think
I'll put their store in the description. It's just an Etsy shop. So I'll put their description out. They got stuff for Quest and all the other VR headsets and things too. But of course, we don't care about those. PSVR 2, baby.
They should really reach out to a developer of like some gun game, like Light Brigade or something, to say, hey, let us work together. Somebody buys a Kobra VR gun stock, they get a free copy of XYZ game, Light Brigade or something like that. Or maybe Cobra should just buy a bunch of Light Brigade codes if they can and then give them out with the code. Because that's what put AIM across the finish line, right? The AIM controller had Farpoint with it, had Firewall with it. Those kind of things would help out. But no, I want to get... last question. Would you see this being useful in Resident Evil 8? I mean, you got shotguns and stuff, right?
I would say, yeah. A bit more of a challenge because Resident Evil 8 is so involved in picking things up and throwing. Like I threw a lot of knives. Okay. And again, you could do it, but you would have that whole stock. I mean, it would be moving all around. So yeah, it's possible, but probably for a game like that, I would just use the normal controllers.
I think the game that's really going to succeed with this is Crisis Brigade 2 when it comes to PSVR 2, because that's the game doing exactly what you're talking about. Ducking for cover, bad cop, jumping up, popping things. And you're right. It's hard to keep that relationship between your left hand and right hand while you're also rotating your body and your hands with respect to your body. So I think it's really nice that we have something like this. Kind of maintain that frame as you're moving around. And it probably makes it easier to do things like just turn your body around as you're shooting rather than having to rely on the analog sticks, which is what I always have to do if I don't have a gun stock. So nice. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Send it to me so
have you seen the new VR Skater trailer?
Yeah, I've watched it. I want this game to be good because I would love to have a good skating game in VR. I just don't. Apparently, they must have demoed it and thought it was good enough to make a game out of. I'm just so skeptical, but everything that I see looks promising. I just wonder how it's going to feel when I actually do it.
So what makes you worry?
So it looks like you're going in a straight line, which isn't the worst thing in the world, right? Because like Ollie Ollie is a skateboarding game where you're going in a straight line and doing tricks. I really wonder about motion sickness. I wonder about
Yeah,
what
I
the
wonder
mechanics
that
are
too.
of like doing an ollie, doing a kickflip. Because if the mechanics are interactive enough to where I feel accomplished doing an ollie and then doing like a 50-50, board slide or something like that's going to be really cool and that's going to be really fun. I do wonder what are the levels like? If I'm looking at my feet the whole time, am I going to care what the levels are? I don't know. But I'm excited somebody's trying this out, and if they pull it off, great. We have like a new style of game that we're going to be doing in VR.
Yeah, I think what you're concerned about, I think, are very. It makes sense. I wonder too. Like it can't detect how your legs move, so if it's just everything is buttons, like that's not very immersive, right? You might as well
Yeah.
just play on a flat game then, because you're gonna have to use the buttons to jump. You're gonna have to use the buttons to do the tricks.
So I
So
don't think you have to do the buttons to jump. It looks like just watching because you can see the sense controllers in the trailer. I think you probably do something like push back on the back controller, like push down on the back controller, and then push forward to ollie. Like if that's how it works, kind of simulating what your feet would do, that would be really cool and immersive to do an ollie. And then you can hit a button to like hold down the square while you do it. That does a kickflip, something like that.
But on the trailer, they did look down. I mean, I know it's a trailer that you're trying to show the gameplay and what's happening with the board, but the whole time you were looking down at the board. There was one point where they jumped from one building across like a really big
Yeah.
opening into like a scaffolding. That was really neat. And like for me who hates heights, like that gave me to the top vibes where you just jump and hope for the best and your body's like no, like that's pretty cool. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping this is appropriately priced. I hope that it is more immersive than I think it's going to be. I just all these games are immersive. You have to use your hands and your arms like in real life if you were to do these things. Not being able to use your legs at all, I just don't know how immersive it could be as a skater. But new trailer, check it out, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Adam, we're running out of time in segment one. Let's go ahead and close this shop. Listen to some music, guys, and we will see you in segment two after the break.
Whoa, boy, that was intimate. But you wouldn't know, you, the listener, because there's no live stream yet. Alex, how fulfilled are you right now?
By the intimacy, very filled. Fulfilled. Sorry, fulfilled.
Oh, I'm regretting my decisions of choosing this as our topic for today. But, I want to talk about Seeker My Shadow, a little well-known game. Alex, I'm going to convince you to play it. That's my goal right now.
I missed the soundbite. 1 second.
Gaming is in session. Seeker My Shadow, please step forward. Are you a worthy PSVR 2 title? Are you worthy of our hard-earned moolah? Take the stand in front of you. I charge you with 3 things: 2 counts of non-cultivated plot, 5 counts of hidden fun, and 1 count of BTI, or big time immersion. Now, in the first count, I have to discuss the sorely lacking plot. Just like Alex's brother's Farmville account, his farm, just like Seeker My Shadow's plot, is uncultivated. The premise of the game is that you're a giant shadow. You're helping a little dog looking figure named Kippo, and he is called a Seeker, the little puppy. You explore the various levels, you work together to solve puzzles, to progress. It gives me Astrobot vibes, or from the NES era, Gyromite, where you're working with the character to ultimately achieve these puzzles and progress. There is a plot to the story. However, there is no background to it. It is horribly abrupt and adds absolutely nothing to the gameplay. In no way does this story, does this plot motivate the player at all. So, does it serve the player to have a half hearted, borderline useless plot? Perhaps no plot at all would be better. Hmm. Hmm. Ah. Do you have any questions, defendant?
Yeah, I mean, it's very rare that you find a game that has no context. And context is kind of just, it's at least a little bit important. There has to be some context for what you're doing. Is it that the game belabors its plot that's relatively uncultivated, belabors its plot too much and it gets in the way? Are you asking for it to instead just be like, hey, guess what? You're a shadow, here's a dog, let's save the world, and then move on with your life?
And very similar to that. The first level, they're like, I forgot the names of the monsters start with L. It's some name I've never heard of. It's a made up name, a made up group of monsters, no backstory. He was just like, we'll call them Lethargians. I don't know. They're like, the Lethargians are coming into the realm. We need to close the gate. That's the plot. Nothing else. I don't know who the Lethargians are. I don't know who this man is. I don't know what a seeker is. I don't know what a shadow is. I don't know where this dog came from. I know nothing about the land, and now we're saving it. I mean, yeah, it's just not good. And because of that, on 2 counts of uncultivated plot, I find you guilty. So we got to move to the 5 counts of hidden fun. And as bad as the non-existent plot is in this game, it does a total 180. And it is so much fun to find these hidden items. Every level contains eggs, collectibles, a hidden card for you to find. Some of these items are fairly easy, like the eggs sometimes could be right out in the open, but others require you as the player to interact with the environment or explore the areas that Kippo, your little puppy, can't get to yet. It's a very immersive experience, and it honestly is extremely fun. I love these Easter eggs and hidden collectibles in all games, not just this one. I feel like it really helps you enjoy the game, experience the atmosphere without just burning through the levels to get done with the game or progress. It allows you to rack up those PlayStation trophies if you care about that. And it's also adds an element of challenging gameplay to it. And this isn't mandatory, but it's exceedingly fun, and I absolutely loved it. It's fun to participate in, and I'm so glad that was one of the big focuses of the game in itself.
So I'm glad that the puzzles are engaging. I'm glad that there's hidden stuff in there for you to find. But my question, and maybe you're not going to care about this too much, is do you feel any connection to Kippo? Like, is anything done to make you want to relate to Kippo or be concerned about Kippo or take care of Kippo?
I don't even know if that's how I say Kippo's name. I don't know anything about Kippo. I feel nothing toward Kippo or the old man that I call Noah. I know his name isn't Noah, but he looks like Noah, and I'm calling him Noah. It doesn't. No, you don't feel any connection. I mean, it's for you, Alex, who is a little more sentimental about things, the fact that you are working so closely with Kippo, maybe you will form this bond in some way, but there's no story element. I don't think that was designed to necessarily happen. It could have been, but unfortunately, it just isn't.
It's just one of the things in these kind of games that I like. Astrobot, he's constantly making noise. He's looking back, waving at you and stuff like that. And it's not something forced, but it just happens. Same thing with, Moss. You're picking up the mouse and she's waving at you. She gets hurt. You pick her up and it heals her and things like that. What is your level of interaction with Kippo, or are you just controlling Kippo with the analog sticks, and beyond that, you can't really do much with him?
Unfortunately, that's the case. And
Okay.
that's where I agree. That's what takes Astrobot and Moss to the next level, is because you feel like, oh, they care for me, or I care for this little guy. Kippo is certainly just a gameplay device that is still a cool. It's a cool concept, and it works well. But yeah, you don't have that personal connection, which is unfortunate. But thankfully, with the other gameplay elements, kind of makes up for that. Myself, who's not, especially if you're a kid too, you may not care as much. This game is very kid friendly, adult friendly if you want to find the Easter eggs, all the collectibles. There's one puzzle in there that is just insanely difficult. So, I mean, yeah, it's overall pretty good. And on the 5 counts of hidden fun, I find you guilty. So we got to move to the big boy, the single count of BTI. No, this game is not Resident Evil 8. It is not Gran Turismo 7, but that doesn't mean that it's not creative and that it's not immersive. That is noticed, that it is creative, it is immersive. So the way that you have to interact with the world in a fashion like Astrobot Rescue Mission, you have to do that same immersion, that same interaction with Seeker, My Shadow. Mind you, some of it isn't quite to the extent of Astrobot, but I truly did love the gameplay. In order to progress, you have to interact with the environment, like pulling cranks, levers at the right time. You got to clean out gutters. You have to rotate gears, a bunch more. And these require you even to time your movement. So as Kippo moves or you move him, you have to also crank your lever at a specific time or select certain buttons or make platforms appear at certain times. It is challenging and it does keep you engaged, and it feels like you aren't just playing a game, but that you are part of the game, which is pretty neat. Very few games have achieved something like this. Like you said, Moss did. I feel like Astrobot did. And this is another one that maybe not quite as well as those still achieved that feat. And it's very few of them. And right now, to my knowledge, the only one that does this on the PSVR 2 currently. So it's a charming little game, great for kids, as I mentioned. It's good for adults, a very nice, chill PSVR 2 experience. It's going to take you about 3 hours, and I personally thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, it's not a perfect game. You can tell it's not a AAA title, but is it worth playing? The final verdict will decide.
Yeah, I'm just so skeptical of the game based off the footage. There was that game on the PSVR 1 that was trying to be like an Astrobot Lite where you're controlling guys around and solving puzzles. And it was serviceable and good, but again, you could tell that it was like a tier below in terms of quality. I'm really surprised that you've enjoyed this game as much as you have. Tell me this. You didn't play the co-op. There is a co-op mode where, say one of my kids could be playing with the controller and I would be the ghost. They'd control on the TV and I'd be interacting in VR. Do you think that would change anything about the game? Do you think, like, maybe is the game worth getting just to do that with my children potentially?
See, that's the other thing that you're correct. That would almost be the price of admission for you to be able to play that with your children if they were interested in doing that. Because one, I mean, you could do either one, but for them to control the little puppy and you have to work together, you have to communicate, that adds an element that, again, on the PSVR 2, we don't have available at this point. It's a cute game. It's easy enough that kids could definitely understand what's happening, what the goal is, so it is achievable. It's not like playing, keep talking and nobody explodes with your kids. Like, you don't stand a chance there. This is something they could do. They could play with them like themselves, brother, sister, whatever. They could play. Like, it's easy enough to do that. And that is something one player uses a DualSense. They control little Kippo, and then the other person inside the headset, they turn the cranks, they move the platforms, all that stuff. So it would be a very fun experience for the local. It's local player, not online multiplayer, but yeah, absolutely. So with that being said, Seeker, My Shadow, are you a worthy PSVR 2 title and game to play? The final verdict is in. Seeker, My Shadow, I find you guilty.
Guilty.
The thing is, you didn't see this coming. I didn't see this coming. I enjoyed this way more than I probably should have. With that being said, Alex, I'm not going to go over the top. I understand its limitations. I understand it's a fairly expensive game for 3 hours.
How much is it?
$30. $30 for 3 hours. And, it's not a Resident Evil 8 3 hours. It's a homebrew 3 hours. Again, still enjoyable, but I have to consider that. So when I'm looking at this, oh man, oh gosh, this is tough. It's definitely better. I'm sorry, it's better than Discronia. The thing is, does it go above or below Tentacular? And the thing is, I feel like I would like this gameplay more, but it's shorter, right? And it may not be. I didn't play Tentacular. You did, so I don't know the immersive nature of Tentacular.
So, I mean, if I can give my perspective, I haven't played this game, and granted, I'm skeptical of this game.
Uh-huh.
Tentacular is cheaper, longer, and more VR apparent, and it does more clever things. My grief with Tentacular was that maybe it doesn't have enough to it. This game has even less than that. So that's why I would think Tentacular is more of a VR wow you game. This is more of a I've done a bunch of stuff in VR. I just want a little extra something to chew on while I wait for the next release.
Yeah.
So that's why I think this might be better than Tentacular. But this is up to you, Adam.
Wait, you mean this is worse than Tentacular? Right?
Yeah, sorry. I think Tentacular would probably be above this.
Okay, because that's not what you said. I should have just gone with it. Oh, you said it. Okay. Yeah, no. The thing is, I think I agree with that. I also think I don't know what happened. I think our list I think is pretty good, but I mean, there's no way Thumper is number 10. Like, I don't know what the F happened here. The thing is, it's tough, though. Like, Thumper is a really good game, but did I enjoy Runner more? Like, it's more VR-like. So it's like, yeah, drums rock. You're playing the drums. So, I mean, it's a very, like, yeah, it kind of is better. Like, it's tough. It just sucks seeing Thumper that far down when it's a good game, you know?
Yeah, but Thumper's held back by the fact that it's just been out for so long, right? Like it's not anything new. It's just better of what it is already. You know, if Thumper came out, if this is our first time seeing Thumper, it'd be higher up on the list. But it's like Thumper's a very been there, done that thing. Whereas a lot of this stuff is new and it's leveraging the PSVR 2 in ways that we wanted to see it leveraged.
Yeah. So I agree. I'm going to put that underneath Tentacular, above Discronia. It's a very strong number 13 on our list, but that is where we're going to put it. Alex, I've been waiting for this all night. I don't know what it is, and this can open a whole freaking discussion, a whole can of worms. I love C Smash VRS. What? I play it on a daily basis. I can't stop. What is it? I don't understand. I've cleared out my entire room. There is a clear rectangular pathway that I am now running back and forth instead of using the analog sticks. And I am having the time of my freaking life. Also, if you have the demo, they updated it. Now multiplayer actually works. So will I say it's 100% perfect? Maybe not, but it's kind of hard to tell. Like, of course, you're always going to think, oh, I reached that. I hit that, right? Because you're biased. And maybe I really didn't. But it's much, much better. The multiplayer, I play practice mode a lot. Why? Like, I don't understand, Alex. Why is it so fun?
Well, it's a proven gameplay mechanic. I mean, this was a game that was on the Dreamcast. So Sega obviously knew, like, this is a game that works in normal mode. Let's just make it immersive in VR. And so, like, I don't know. Like, I don't particularly care for tennis, but virtual tennis or Virtua Tennis in the arcade, you're just playing with a joystick like an arcade. It's so fun. I was addicted to it when I first played it. Like, I was at Dave & Buster's just, like, dropping cash in it, just playing this stupid tennis game. And don't know what it is. I think, like I said, it's that Mario Golf effect I said in the last episode where it's like, there's this game that I would love to be good at so I could enjoy to see what it's like if you're good at it. And this helps you bridge that gap of like, I'd love to be good at tennis or racquetball, but I'm not. But this kind of helps me bridge that gap so I can feel what it would be like to be a good tennis or racquetball player. On top of that, it sounds like the single player mode, they have that Arkanoid type addiction pattern, almost similar to like Puzzle Bobble or maybe even like Pokemon Puzzle League of like, I'm knocking these blocks out, I'm moving around and just kind of solving this puzzle. And I'm very active while I do it. It greatly helps that the haptics are working so well. And now that the multiplayer is fixed, that was the thing with the multiplayer. You knew it was broken because you couldn't feel the hits. Here, when you're playing single player, at least, you feel those hits. You hit the ball. If you put the English on it, you know you put the English on it because you see that curve. You felt yourself moving to hit that curve. This is what happens when the mechanics are just so good. When they fine tune the game feel so much that you don't need much else. You just need the game to feel right. So I'm glad the room scale's working out for you. I'll say this. I don't know if you're part of the PlayStation Rewards or PlayStation Stars program, but I had enough to get a free $20 gift card. I turned that thing right to Sea Smash. I pre-ordered that sucker. So I'm ready day one to play Sea Smash just because it looked, I don't know, it felt so good. I want to be a part of it. I love the aesthetics, that space aesthetics. It's so clean. I think this update fixed some reprojection issues people were having. Granted, I don't really care about that stuff, but people did care about it. It's fixed some of that. They fixed the netcode, which is like the last big glaring thing. This game is a surprise stunner for us so far. I can't wait to see what it's like when it finally launches.
The thing is, I am locked into multiplayer. Is kind of hard to find people now, unless you play with a friend. This past week I tried maybe 6 times to do multiplayer, and I only found one person at one time. And I mean, I was playing after work, so it's not like I'm trying to get on there at 1 o'clock during the day. So I'm essentially playing one game mode by myself, and I still am playing it every day. Once they open up all of the different modes available, holy crap. Dare I say, Alex, and I want to make a video about this. Dare I say, this is the most fun game on the PSVR 2? I'm not saying the best. It's obviously just a demo. I loved Resident Evil 8, but I can't say I had I'm smiling, I'm having fun in Resident Evil 8. I didn't feel that in Gran Turismo. Again, it's really cool. I appreciate the crap out of it, but I don't have I'm smiling, I'm having fun, I'm chuckling. This is just straight up fun. I don't know. Let me look back at our list. I had that. I mean, I guess I had that with Runner, but this is a stronger feeling than it is with Runner. Am I dumb for saying that? Do you agree or disagree? Am I forgetting about a game? What's your thoughts?
There's 2 things here I want to touch on. First is it's a demo that you've fallen in love with, and we both agree we can't wait to see the other game modes. This reminds me very strongly of Tetris Effect. This is
you dare! You dare do this! Don't you do it! Don't put those words in your mouth.
This is the Tetris effect, where you play a demo, you love it. You can't wait to try new game modes, and then you find out after you purchase it that the stuff I enjoyed was all in the demo, and there's not much more beyond that. There's a potential here for that to occur, although I think it's less likely here. But
you can see the other game modes right there. They're grayed out, but there's multiplayer game modes, practice game modes.
I'm just warning you. Anyways, regarding your topic of fun, I actually watched a really good video by the Zero Punctuation guy, Yahtzee. He had a thing called Extra Punctuation about gameplay loops. What makes a game fun to play? And he says there's 3 pillars in game design. There's the challenge, making you feel like you accomplished something. There's the context, which is like story. And there is I forget the word. Anyways, it's like the gameplay feel. He calls it cohesion or something like that. But the idea is that an excellent game has all 3 of those, but a lot of really good games just have one of those maxed up. And I think that's what you're talking about with games like Runner, games like Sea Smash. They have, unfortunately, that element that I forgot that begins with C, the gameplay mode. That's ramped up, but it's not really servicing you with the context. You don't care about that too much. It's not servicing you. I mean, there's a bit of challenge, but the thing here is it's all gameplay all the time for you, and it lets you kind of put everything else on the back burner, which is great for a good game. I like to see, that's what puts a game like Resident Evil 8 over the top, right? It has all 3. It has a challenge, it has a context, it has a gameplay, and I think that's what you're looking at when you're why is Gran Turismo fun? It's because it's not ramped up on the context, it's not ramped up on the gameplay, but it's got a nice balance of all 3 at a high level, which makes it enjoyable. I don't think you're stupid for wondering why aren't games just more fun. I think you, as a stingy person who won't just buy all sorts of games out there, you're missing out on a lot of games that are just pure fun, but they lack context.
I just disagree because you loved After the Fall. And here's the thing. I played it a bit, played it with a group of 4 of us. I played it with just you. I have fun, but I have fun because of you, not because of the game. If I played that single player, I'm telling you, I wouldn't have fun. It would be like a game that, again, I can appreciate, but I wouldn't have fun. Sea Smash, I stop in the middle of the day And I'm like, I gotta play Sea Smash. And at my lunch breaks, I play Sea Smash. Right now, when we're done with this podcast, I'm gonna go play Sea Smash. And the beautiful thing is, you play one practice session is like 6 minutes. That's what I love about these games. That's why I like Tetris. I could play for 6 minutes, be done. In fact, if I play more than 3 games, I start sweating. So that's like perfect amount. I get my fix in. I have a real good time. It lets me kind of ignore whatever's going on that day. I strongly disagree. I think it has challenge. So it has 2 of those 3 you said. And the plot is right there, the contextualization. I'm looking outside, I'm seeing astronauts on the seesaw. I've got some dude who looks like he's a composer. Do. Like, it's good. It's got Res vibes. It's the most Sega Dreamcast game I've ever seen in my life. And it's in VR. I'm calling it. It's the 2023 PlayPSVR Game of the Year. That's how it is.
Cold Iron Game of the Year. I mean, it comes out in June, so I mean, it's some contender there. But I appreciate that you really enjoy it. I'm looking forward to it a lot. Here's the thing. I'm excited that Sega is putting forth a game like this, and it's coming across with polish. It's coming across with care. We're not getting too many huge developers, too many huge publishers putting out PSVR games. If Sega can find success with things like this, and they say, hey, these random ass, Dreamcast games you made, let's polish them up a bit, put them in VR, and release it, then there's potential there for really fun. Maybe we get like a polished up Sega Rally VR. That would be amazing. Maybe we get a better polished up version of Space Channel 5. That would be amazing. There's all these IPs out there. I mean, really hold my breath. What if we got a VR Shenmue? I'd lose my mind. But
or Seaman.
Yeah, that's what Adam's looking for constantly.
Dude, imagine Sega, bring all of them. Bring everything you got. Sonic. That even if I knew it had to be like single player, but you just went insanely fast, and these environments are flying by you, and like it has the potential to be big time lame, but like you never know. And that brings me to like another question, Alex. I've had people over, and this weekend for Easter, I'm having a bunch of people come over, and I don't have a game I feel like a Super Hot where immediately someone is like, this is VR, and it wins them over immediately. I've shown people Gran Turismo 7, and they're like, oh, this is cool, but it didn't win them over. I can't put them in Resident Evil 8. That's too much. Song in the Smoke is too much. Runner is cool, but it's not. It's also limited in itself. Sea Smash, I feel like, is a game that they would at least. It's not as good as Super Hot, but they would be like, oh, like they would get it. But have you played any games, or do you have any recommendations for the PSVR 2? What games have that Super Hot effect?
In terms of Super Hot, I'm not sure, because you're right. Super Hot.
I mean, not just Super Hot, but you know what
I know what you mean. I mean, people always say Synth Riders is like the game that sells people on VR because you get it. You put the orbs where they're supposed to be, you listen to the music, and when it's working well, you feel like you're doing something, even though you might look goofy when you're playing it. And looking goofy when you're playing it is what makes it a fun social game. However, you talking about Seeker My Shadow and that asymmetric gameplay you can do multiplayer, and Runner even, I think that's a good party game because it doesn't just leave. You can do that multiplayer, right? You can do Runner where somebody's driving the motorcycle and somebody's shooting. That doesn't leave the person sitting on the couch doing nothing. It gives you extra engagement. It gives you extra feedback. It just makes the game a little bit more enjoyable for all told. And the thing about Runner is, like, it's a pretty complicated game when you're trying to figure out how everything works. It's hard to drop somebody in without going through training, but if you can control the steering for them, they can focus on the shooting and have a good time. Then you can swap roles. That would be a fun party game. Seeker My Shadow, because it's pretty simple, they can kind of get it, right? They look up, they see you're this ghost, and they can see that you're moving around, matching what's happening, and you're in VR, just enjoying looking around at stuff. I think those things are good. Like, Keep Talking Nobody Explodes, that's a really great party game because that asymmetric gameplay. So I think maybe you should try setting up Runner. Sea Smash is like, if you're not looking to be active, maybe it's not great. Creed just came out, and there's some worries about it, but it seems to work pretty good. Boxing is an immediate thing that people, everybody would love to try boxing, but they don't want to get hurt. In VR, that's what you get to do. So I think those are probably some good ones, and they avoid too much of the motion sickness and stuff like that. But I should try Runner, and I think you should get Synth Riders and try that because it's just got nothing but heaps of praise.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because it looks like a poor man's Beat Saber, and I've never played it, so I don't know. It very well could be fantastic, but I don't know why Beat Saber is taking this long to get to the PSVR 2. But also at this point, everyone knows Beat Saber, right? So it's not really like a game I want to show off. Like I want to show off something they don't know yet, right? And
But the thing is like knowing it's one thing, but doing it is the other thing. Like everybody knew about Guitar Hero, and they thought it was kind of stupid or silly. You got this plastic toy guitar, but then when you play it for the first time, it's like, oh, oh, I see what this is. I feel like I'm playing guitar, even though I'm not. To that in that vein, maybe Drums Rock demo or the Ragnarok demo. One of those might sell people on the idea of VR. They have a good time with it. So there's a lot of games. I mean, there's a lot of demos you can try, and that's totally designed for somebody to pop in with no experience and see what VR is about. So I think there's a good handful of things you can show off there, aside from Gran Turismo, to really sell people on it.
yeah, so do you think we need more games that are just straight up fun? Or maybe it's just me. Maybe you play Song in the Smoke and you truly have like what I'm saying, C Smash type fun. I don't know. I mean I don't, but do you? Maybe it's just me.
No, I mean, when I play Song in the Smoke, I don't have that just C Smash type fun, right? I'm when I play games, as elitist as it sounds, I'm looking for those three pillars, right? I want something that's giving me some kind of emotional context to motivate me to play the game, to get something out of the game besides the gameplay. I'm certainly looking for that challenge and motivation to get me feel like I'm accomplishing something as I'm progressing, and then I'm also looking for that gameplay. That's why I like Gran Turismo 7 more than you, because it's got this steep challenge. It's got, minimal context, but enough context there to be like, I am driving, I am racing, I am trying to win. And then it's got that fine-tuned gameplay to make everything work. So I don't feel like we're lacking in games that are just straight up fun. However, games like Drums Rock are those kind of games that are just pure fun. Light Brigade, that's why I was looking forward to Light Brigade. I don't really care about the story. I don't really care about, it's probably challenging enough. I'm just looking for the good gunplay in it, is what it looks like it presents. So I think you just need to broaden your horizons, or maybe just take the plunge on some games instead of waiting for just random.
I've been playing games up the wazoo, man. I don't know what you want from me, and they're just. C Smash is on a different level. I need To the Top. I need Super Hot. I need Beat Saber. I need some games that aren't about the plot, but about just pure fun. Those are the games, when I look back, the ones that a lot I love. I mean, there was things like The Persistence, and of course Resident Evil was great, but I cannot believe you said C Smash might be like Tetris Effect. If we were together and physically in the same spot, I would become intimate with your face with my backhand, because I would slap you, you fool. I cannot believe
smash me.
I cannot believe
smash me.
I would C smash you, you butthole. I cannot believe you even uttered the name of that absolute disgrace of a freaking game on this podcast. F you. And no, I still haven't bought the upgrade. I'm not buying the upgrade. And I would rather play with myself than play that heap of trash. Listen, No Man's Sky update. What do you got for me?
Yeah, so people have been complaining No Man's Sky doesn't look. We thought it was going to look great. There's a lot of issues with it on the PlayStation VR 1. It's blurry. There's pop-ins, stuff like that. We're all looking for it to look like a PSVR 2 game. They finally released an update, fixed a lot of No Man's Sky stuff. These guys are great about releasing patches. Apparently, it's not a significant upgrade to the PSVR 2 visuals, but it's better. And I think that's better than nothing. That we're seeing incremental improvements. It's looking better than the PSVR 1 version, at least. It's not quite as blurry. So I'm happy about that. The thing is about No Man's Sky is I'd love to dive in and play it, but it's just like, if I just wait a little bit, it's going to get better, right? If I wait a couple more months, it's going to get better. So when do I dive in? And part of me thinks, like, I just need to dive in and grind through the beginning part again so I can enjoy it as it is. I'm sure it's fine as it is because I'm not comparing it to, like, PC VR. But I just want to put it out there. It's been updated. It looks better. So if you're waiting for that, maybe now's the time to check it out. They're always adding stuff. This game looks so appetizing. I just don't have the time for it.
I feel like if Outer Wilds came to VR, they're both exploration games and stuff, so it made me think Outer Wilds. I think that would actually be pretty good. Like,
yeah.
you can actually finish that game, whereas No Man's Sky is borderline unfinishable. And it does a lot of the same things No Man's Sky does. It's such an expansive game. And there's so much out there to play. Unless we get a dead period, I just don't know when I'm going to go back. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, they have made a PC mod for Outer Wilds in VR, and people say it works surprisingly well. I have a feeling it's never going to happen for PSVR 2, but man, if I won the lottery and could dump money into one publisher, it would be them to make a VR version of Outer Wilds, just so I could have an excuse to go through that game again.
And and then it would be great because then Bruce could win a code and then he would waste 10 hours of his time, not just 1 hour. Wonderful. Great job, Alex. Across the valley, speaking of potentially wasting your time, this is something that we have disagreements on. If you go to the PSVR Reddit, there was a big old thing where they came out. It's Conrad DeKitten, that developer, came out with this game. There's teleportation, but it's not like oh, I want to go over here to the right, let me teleport there. There's only certain points where you can teleport to it. And there was a big discussion. Someone was like, why can you only teleport? And the developer was like, well, we built it for VR. So because of that, we didn't allow you to free roam. Like teleportation was part of that. And then people, of course, were like, what type of freaking answer is that? If it's in VR, you should be able to free roam. And there were a bunch of other things. I personally am on the side of the players. If it's built for VR, you should be able to move. You should play it in virtual reality. If it's not a fully fledged game, like there are some mechanics that just don't work well, I mean, don't buy it. Like it's not a good game. But then we have Alex over here who he's still got intimacy issues with Conrad. He defends him. I don't. So what are you gonna buy this game? Like what's your deal, man?
So Conrad the Kitten was a game that started off being like okay, and it ended up being really fun. And it was very similar. You're moving from station to station. Now, I appreciated their justification. They said that, hey, we modeled this game after Job Simulator, after Vacation Simulator, where you are teleporting from station to station, and at each station, that's where you're having the fun. It doesn't benefit you to move and free roam between each station because you might end up putting yourself in a bad position to enjoy this station of gameplay. So I can appreciate that. The other thing is they're an indie developer, right? You can't expect them to make these fully fledged Resident Evil 8 style games, and especially if the free roam is not enhancing the gameplay in any capacity, there's no real reason to have it. I mean, a good example to me is a game like Killer 7, which came out on the GameCube. People hated it because it was literally an on-rails shooter, although it looked like Resident Evil 4 or something like that, and people hated it. But it worked. It worked so well. Because here's the thing. Regardless of what you think about what you expect the game to be, you should take the game on what the merits of it as itself. And the people who made the game designed it in a sense where they thought, there's no real benefit of you walking around this farm because you're not going to be doing anything while you're walking around. It just gives you chances to get lost. It gives you chances to ruin your experience. It gives you chances to break the mechanics, and it also adds undue development time on these poor developers who already spent tons of time with Conrad the Kitten. So I'm fine with station to station teleporting, especially for a game like this. It's just trying to give you a little extra something, Job Simulator, but on a farm. I'm down with that. Here's the thing, and people probably disagree with me. Video gamers, people who play video games, are the most entitled, whiny bunch of people complaining about stuff like this where one guy was mad because he bought the game without watching any videos really or knowing anything about it because he thought he was going to be able to walk around and drive his tractor on a farm when they said nothing to that effect. And so, well, it's not fair that you didn't tell me I wouldn't have free roam. The Job Simulator doesn't say that stuff. Vacation Simulator doesn't say that stuff. These games don't say that stuff. Just watch the footage of the game. Wait for some reviews. Like, it doesn't hurt that much. And this game might just not be for you. That's fine. But I'm looking forward to playing this game because I like what they did with Conrad the Kitten. Full disclosure, I don't even like cats. But this game Conrad the Kitten was fun for me. And I loved the mini games they had in there. And yeah, it's not Resident Evil 8. It's not a AAA title. It's not even a AA title. But they have thoughtful mechanics that they put into the game. And I'd much rather take it for what it does well, as opposed to expecting it to be something that it's not, and then complaining that it's not that something else. So I'm looking forward to trying to cross the valley. I'll see if we can get a code or something, but I'll probably end up buying it just because Conrad the Kitten was cool. I want to see what they do with the rest with other animals.
I don't understand if you aren't going to make a fully fledged VR game, just make an iOS game. Why are you trying to make a VR game if it's just going to be a bad one?
What is VR? The point of VR is not the ability to move around, which a lot of people have issues with to begin with. The point of VR is to be in a space, not necessarily move within a space. Adam, you love C Smash. You can't move forward in that damn game. You can only move left and right. So
Bull crap! I move forward all the time, ho.
You can't. I know you can't because I played the game with you. You're stuck. You can't move forward at all.
I move forward in real life.
Yeah, but it doesn't do anything in the game, you idiot.
Doesn't matter. I do it, and I'm immersed in it.
Then you can move forward in this game, and it's not going to do anything, and you have the exact same effect. That's the point, is that your locomotion is not a game breaker if it's not required for the gameplay. So
no, the game breaker is that it's not a good game. That's
no
the
idea.
Game breaker.
You haven't played it. You have
it's
no
all
idea.
Of these components together. They're saying you can't milk the cows. It's not intuitive. It doesn't work. Then you add the teleportation things. It just, you like every game you freaking play, Alex. Seriously, what is the last game you played and you were like, wow, I don't like that?
I mean, we have it on the list here. I think it was called Zenith. Yeah, I didn't really like Zenith, and that had full smooth motion.
You would have given it a guilty verdict had you reviewed it, but
Definitely not. I was the one that pushed you into a not guilty. Sorry, Zenith.
You suck.
Okay, I'm done talking to you, Adam. Let's take it out here. Thank you for joining us for episode 115, despite Adam having returned. As always, we hope you enjoyed our reviews. We hope you enjoyed our takes. We hope you enjoyed our intimacy. If you did, leave us a comment on YouTube, leave us a review on iTunes, or leave us a nasty, hate-ridden, or sexual email at contact@playpsvr.com. We will get back to you. We always do. And then you'll have a level of intimacy with us you've probably only dreamed of. And while you're dreaming, dream of a friend. Dream of telling your friend about these two guys who fill your ears every week with the latest morsels of PSVR 2 goodness. And then bring your friend here next week to listen. For Adam, I'm Alex, and this has been Play PSVR 2, the podcast, where virtual reality is our reality.